Okay, hello and welcome to this tutorial video on how to provide feedback on the first 4 weeks of logbook entries for your honors project students, and then once you've done that, how to lock the first 4 weeks of the logbook and activate the remaining 6 weeks of this semester for the students. So as usual, you access your Pebble Pad via your Blackboard homepage, clicking on the Pebble Pad here. Then once it opens, you go into your Atlas, so the blue sphere up here, and in Atlas you should be able to see the Honours Project 2019-2020 Honours Project logbook appear here in your list of workspaces. So you should click on that, and all of the students should be visible to all of the lecturers supervising. So you'll just have to find your students here on this list. And say, for example, I want to go in here into this logbook, click on the logbook, and I want to provide the feedback for the first 4 weeks of the logbook. Now, first of all, to see the weekly logbook entries, I have to go to the Research Logbook Semester 1. On the drop-down list, I can select any of the weeks I want to see. So say, for example, week 1. This student hasn't put anything into week 1. If they had provided any evidence, uploaded any kind of documents, images, files to their entry, that would appear here, and you would be able to click on the links. But as you can see, that hasn't happened here. Let's see if there's something different in week 4. Yes, so here there's a short entry here where the student has placed an entry into week 4. But again, no evidence provided with that. It says evidence doesn't mean the student has to provide anything here. It doesn't have to be an upload for every weekly entry, but it's a space where students can provide uploads. It might be very useful. But just to clarify that in terms of language. And then week 3, let's see if he has anything in here. Yeah, again, very brief entry, but he's registered a interaction here with his supervisor. So that's also a space where students can record work in the interaction section, where they can put down things they discussed, things they worked on with their supervisor or with a technician, for example. Okay, so my first look over this logbook suggests to me that this student hasn't recorded everything they've done. I would be surprised if they haven't done more than the 2 really brief entries they've put into week 3 and week 4. So something I want to discuss with a student when they come to meet me is, talk me through how you decided what to put into your logbook and what not to put in your logbook. And oftentimes you'll find students say, well, I haven't done any practical work yet, I haven't done anything in the lab yet or anything experimental yet, so therefore there's nothing much to put into my logbook. But in reality, as we know, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes and goes into preparation and so forth. So anything the student has done to prepare their proposal for their project, to do background reading, to read up on protocols, to get in touch with technicians, to complete risk assessments, to get those checked and so forth, all that work should be reflected in those weekly entries. So I might say to the student, do you know what? Take another few days to go over those entries, brush them up, improve them, and I might put that feedback here into this field. So in week 4, that's the one you want to go for. In week 4, when you have your meeting with your student, there'll be the assessor field. So this is only active to you as a supervisor, and here's where you can place feedback for this student. Now, I'm not going to put anything in here because this is not my student to supervise, but here's where I would type in, have a go at those first 2 weeks especially. There's nothing in there at the moment, but I'm sure you did at least some thinking around what to do for your project. Maybe you attended a workshop or a briefing that helped you with it, with that thinking. So I'd encourage them to do some more writing into those weekly entries, and just flesh out those entries a little bit if you can. And then I might say I'll give you another 2 or 3 days to do that before I will then activate your next few weeks. And this should happen, the conversation should happen in the meeting you have with the student. The feedback you can put in as you're talking if you want to, or you can just end as a record of your discussions, or you can put that feedback in at a later date, or if you don't have a chance to meet with a student because they just can't make the meeting, then ideally you should reschedule that meeting. It's important to have that conversation, but in an extreme situation, you might be able to put feedback in here if they're not able to attend university because they're sick or something like that. Okay, once you've put in the feedback in here, there's a little box down here which says Release Assessor Field Feedback Now. So there's nothing to stop you from doing that right away. So I would usually just say put in your feedback, tick that box, click Save, and that will release the feedback for the student. So that will now provide the feedback for the first 4 weeks of the logbook, but that still means, if you look here, the next 6 weeks, so weeks 5 to 10 of this first semester that the student will need, are not available yet. So how to make those entries available? Well, what you have to do is, on the top right hand here, you have the little icon list here, and remember you can use the little speech bubble to leave comments, and the little speech bubble with the lines through it to provide feedback, so that's for assessed work. And the little thumbs up here, that's the verifications for the various parts of the logbook. So that's what you want to click on. And you will see here that it says here, has a button for me to lock the first 4 weeks of the logbook. So once I'm satisfied, or once I've had the conversation with the student and we say, okay, your first 4 weeks are done, you should now move on to your next part of your project. Ideally, maybe you already have started it, but at least you should be starting now with the practical work on your project. You will want to activate the next 6 weeks of the logbook. To do that, you will have to lock each of these first 4 weeks. So click on the lock button. Again, I'm not going to do it in this video because I don't want to lock this student's first 4 weeks, but you would click on the lock icon for all of these, and once that's done, that should automatically release the next 6 weeks of the logbook. So once all these 4 have been ticked, have been clicked, and these have been locked, the student won't be able to go back to the first 4 weeks and change them. So that's why you want to make sure that the student is clear on that, and that they are ready to move on to the next phase of their logbook. But it should happen, obviously, in a timely fashion, right? The next, the week 5 officially starts after the tutorial week, so it should align, ideally, with that week. But once everyone's agreed with that, and we can move forward, click the lock icons here. You can close this again once that's done. The student should be able to refresh their logbook and should now be able to see on this list, in addition to the first 4 weeks, another 5 weeks appearing down here. Okay, the last thing I want to mention is this traffic lights tool entry here. So this is meant to support the meeting you're going to have with your student. So they're going to download a document here and upload it to the same page that is going to support their discussion with you in the tutorial. Again, you might have seen this in one of the earlier videos. If you haven't, then this is where I can show you again. So the student will find this file in this entry. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and really it's a self-assessment tool. So the students self-assess their confidence levels against a set of statements, skill statements essentially. So for example, statement number 4 is, I can search and read the scientific literature to find papers and methodology relevant to my project. So with the color rating, this works on a 3-color rating, the traffic lights tool rating system. Red meaning I'm really worried about this, I have low confidence. Amber meaning I'm somewhere in between intermediate level of confidence. Green meaning I'm very confident, and I can already do this, I think. So the student can select, for example, I don't know, an amber, indicating, you know what, I think I can do this to a pretty good level, but maybe I'm not so good at finding papers that are relevant to my project. The next column here is a number rating, a confidence rating they can give themselves, where they can say, you know, that yellow corresponds on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is no confidence and 10 is super high confidence. That might mean a 6, so I'm at a 6 here. And in this space here, students can enter any notes, thoughts, you know, reasons why they find themselves at an amber for this statement. So they do that for all of these statements, and then here on the right hand side they will also use those numbers to then place them into this grid. Hopefully they will do that, where they will indicate their need for direction and their need for support for each of the statements. Now direction means I need someone to point me in the right direction, show me the right resources, you know, say read this book, read this paper, you know, look up this online reference, and it'll help you develop your understanding here. So say for example they don't quite know how to search and read the literature properly, or not finding the right papers that they need. They might say to themselves, do you know what, if you just tell me about a journal that has lots of good relevant references for me. As long as you tell me where that is, I can go and look that up for myself. So they might say, do you know what, for statement number 4, that'll need a high level of direction, but a low level of support. And I'll explain what that is in a moment. And they might put their statement number 4 into this box. So that they've indicated here, they need lots of direction. So someone needs to, give them a pointer in the right direction of where to find this information. But once they found it, they can deal with it themselves. If they'd put it high on the support scale, that would mean I need someone to actually show me how that's done. Talk me through it. Let's do a search together. Let's sit down together. I'll show you how to Google or how to use library search function to find relevant articles for you and for your project, and to interpret, this one is important, this one isn't important, how do I make that distinction, and do that with support of someone. You could even refer them to library services, whatever it is, but it has to be, if they're indicating a high level of need of support, it probably means they need to speak to someone or work with someone or get some kind of direct one-to-one support with that. So that's how this document works. It's really meant to be an icebreaker and a discussion tool for your tutorial with the student, or with your meeting with your student, where you can really pick up on the key points of concern for the student, where they have low confidence or where they're worried about something, and then developing those. But you can also always, and remember this, you can also always use the areas where they have a green, where they're more confident, to emphasize, look, you've already come quite a long way, and you're already, really comfortable with some of the aspects of this module, so that's great. So work from a starting point of things which they're already good at and they have confidence in as an encouragement, and then focus on the things that they need development and support with. Okay, that was the extent of this video. Remember, there's a second link or second video I've circulated which has instructions on how to use the feedback and comment functions, so these two functions here in PebblePad, and how to use those to leave the feedback and the mark for the student once that is ready. Okay, thank you very much, and I might do some more of these if they're well received, and if there's anything else that comes up, but for the moment this should do the trick.